Sensei coming at you. Week 10, Mark. We're into double digits, my friend. Can you believe we've been doing this? Is our 11th, technically our 11th episode because we did a little week zero, but 11 weeks at this, man. What do you think?
It's just going by so fast, Andy, and things are changing at light speed. But I love it because, I just love what we do and watching week by week and game by game. And,
Awesome.
that's what we do.
I know. It's awesome, man. Like I said, I look forward to this every Tuesday, particularly after the day we had today. So a nice break from the professional world. But hey, week 9, as always, a lot of excitement, lots of great games, some incredible individual and team performances. But let's start with the week 9 recap, and let's start with the good this week and go down the list. But what was your highlights for the week of week 9?
So, Andy, a lot of good this week. I mean, most weeks there's a lot of good.
Yeah.
But
any week there's college football, it's good, man. Let's leave it, be real. But what stood out to you?
I think what stood out for me was I watched the game I usually would not watch, and I watched the entire fourth quarter, and it was a slugfest, a back and forth. And, I prematurely told you that Charlotte had beaten Memphis because they went down the field with 30 seconds left and scored the go-ahead touchdown.
Yeah.
And with 20 seconds left, Memphis puts it in and they win 33-28.
Yeah, great American Athletic Conference game.
Yeah.
AAC action. That was a big win for Memphis, too, because it keeps them right in the hunt for the title.
And remember, they were doing so well in the beginning, and they kind of fell off midway through, right?
Yeah.
So that was a good for me. What was a really good for me, and you've been championing this team from day one, was Indy's win over
Hoosiers.
Washington.
Hoosiers, yeah. Looked didn't miss a beat with the backup quarterback, huh?
I saw a lot of running plays, but I got to tell you, their running back was great. He carried the ball. His name is Justin. They call him Juice.
Yeah.
And their front line, they just knocked Washington off the ball. They were blowing them out.
Yeah.
And it was one in the trenches. To your point, it was the backup quarterback. It was a great game. I tell you, OSU over Nebraska, you were the one that was calling Nebraska. They're a remade team.
Yeah,
they're going to be in the hunt. Mark Rule is a great coach. That was a tight game, right?
Yeah, it was very competitive. Yeah, I think there was a quote from Rule that said that the first game, since the first game and in the locker room for the time he's been there, where it felt like a championship environment, like just the team and the atmosphere and the behavior and just the way the environment was. I think that was his quote. So it's too bad they couldn't have pulled it off at the Horseshoe, but yeah, they were right in it, right to the end.
They were. And then the last one, you had texted me late into the night saying, Mark, this is a great game. This is a great game. And lo and behold, TCU 1-point win over the Raiders.
Yeah. Yeah, it was I don't know if you saw the final play, but the Raiders were driving, and I think the quarterback, I think he's a freshman. We'll have to check our facts on that. But the commentators were talking about, because they were positioning themselves for a game-winning field goal, and they were talking about putting it in the hands of the freshman QB. And it was just it was a legitimate fumble. It was a great, just a timing tackle. He spun to avoid one tackle and turned right into some 300-pound behemoth lineman who put his hat right on the ball, and it came cleanly out. And TCU, and I think the same guy who knocked it out fell right on top of it. So you felt bad, but it was a heck of a finish, man.
Yeah. So those were my goods and very goods for the week. What about you?
Nice. I'm going to go back to the AAC like you, man. I don't know if you caught any of the highlights of this game, but Tulsa at the University of Texas San Antonio, UTSA. Did you hear about this one?
I have not.
I know. We're pulling them out of the hats today, aren't we, folks? We do watch college football, and we love it. Tulsa is down 35-7 at halftime. So you're thinking, yeah, this one's over, man. You know, I think the Golden Wave they call themselves, Tulsa, but they're going to pack it in. But the comeback started with a big fella TD. Tulsa defensive lineman Amaya Williams picks up a fumble and rumbles 35 yards to score, and that helped get them back in the game. But Tulsa's down 42-17 with 5 minutes left in the third quarter. My friend, they come back to win the game, and we'll talk a little bit about the performance that led that comeback when we get to our offensive players of the week. I don't want to give it away, but I'll touch on that. But that was my big good performance for the week. I certainly acknowledge the Hoosiers and the games you talked about, but yeah, that game was a pretty remarkable comeback for Tulsa. So heck of a game. But how about the bad for you? What was not so good this week in your eyes?
What was bad? It wasn't that much bad from, last week we had a lot of bad, but for me, what did I really like? Andy, I think from the bad perspective, that Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech game was a bore.
Yeah, I didn't catch that much of that game.
It was in Blacksburg. They beat Georgia Tech 21-6.
Yeah.
And it just was not appealing. It wasn't as, involved. The games that we talked about they were captivating. And this game was kind of blah, as well as UNC over Virginia 41-14.
Yeah.
Not good games,
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you? Were there things that you just couldn't watch?
Well, the bad for me, which I didn't put it in the ugly or the big fugly, but LSU giving up a 10-point lead to A&M, man. LSU's up 17-7 going into halftime. In the second half of the game, they give up 3 touchdowns to the backup running back for A&M. And A&M storms back, and I think they ended up winning by 15. But that was disappointing for me. That was I thought they had the game in hand. It was a good competitive game. I watched some of it. It was on ABC, so I was flipping back and forth to that game, and I thought they were going to hold on. I figured it'd be a close game, but yeah, I watched the highlights the next day and read about it, and the fact that they gave up 3 touchdowns, running touchdowns to the Purple People Eaters on the front 4 of the Tigers defense. I was a little surprised that A&M put up. I think they ended up scoring 38 points. I think A&M did. So, but it certainly, the other thing it did, it leaves A&M as a lone undefeated team in the SEC. How about that? From losing to Notre Dame week 1. Me being in the camp of second guessing whether or not Elko can turn that program around, and now all of a sudden they're 7-1 on the season and undefeated in the SEC. Aggies may be for real, my friend. So.
I liked them in the beginning, but they disappointed me. Remember?
Yeah, I know. But hey, how about the ugly?
There was a lot of ugly, starting with Landon's team, Miami of Ohio, crushing Central Michigan.
How about it?
46-7.
I know, man. Where they, we were at the first opener of the season. I remember I was texting you, and then, or when they played Cincinnati, and then they had to go to overtime with UMass. But the last 3 or 4 games, the Redhawks have found their offense.
So that was just an ugly game.
That was the ugly. Yeah. What else? Anything else?
What else did I have as ugly? I had Bama over Mizzou. That was enough. 34-0, Andy.
Yeah. I had that. That's in one of my categories. But
then I had one more ugly.
Yeah.
That was Cal beating Oregon State 44-7. That game was on channel ABC. It was nasty, Andy.
Yeah. Well, Cal, pulling out the offense, right? Yeah, the ugly for me, it was painful to watch, albeit I only watched really the second half because I had something going on during the first half. Navy versus Notre Dame. Like, you just got to feel for the midshipmen, but they turned the ball over 5 times against the Irish. You can't do that and expect to win, And they ended up They ended up giving up 51 points, just got blown out, But 5 turnovers in that game. That game, it was hard to watch. It was difficult, albeit they had a few drives towards the end of the first half. And I think they were driving with under 2 minutes to go. And I think they turned the ball over before the second half. And then I watched the second half, and they had a great drive to start the half. Went down the field 80 yards, scored a touchdown. I thought, all right, be back in it. And then I think Notre Dame scored 2 touchdowns in a matter of just minutes. I think they scored on the rebound. So Navy drove first drive of the second half, scored. Notre Dame responded, and then Horvath, quarterback for a Navy, fumbles on basically the half-yard line, and Notre Dame basically rolls into the end zone for a touchdown, and that was it. They were up, I think, 42 maybe to 10 or 14 at that point. I thought, yes, game over. So that was unfortunate to watch, because everybody, myself included, was, still am, behind Navy, but it was a great story. But I think their CFP hopes may have been dashed with that defeat.
That was my T-shirt pick of the week.
I know.
I
It was
really
a huge
thought,
miss, dude.
yeah,
Huge miss.
no, thank you, Andy.
Yeah, I'll rewind the tape to last week and the week before. He said, check my picks. Check my T-shirt picks. Yeah, we'll check it this week, my friend.
But for me, Andy, it wasn't the ugly. It was the fugly,
You had
Andy.
that. Yeah.
It was unwatchable. Harbath dropped the ball twice. They turned the ball over 3 times.
Yeah, apparently he had I didn't see it in the first half, but he had a thumb injury, I think, is what I didn't see it, but commentators were saying, and you could see it, like, I guess in the second quarter, he had a couple pitches that were a bit off target, and then I saw a couple mishandles of snaps, and then when he went to throw the ball, he dropped the ball. It just slipped out of his hands, and then that fumble, same thing. So not to excuse the performance, and I don't think he would excuse it either, but there may have been something going on there. But still, 5 turnovers, and they lost they lost 5. I think it was 3 fumbles and 2 picks, man, and all 5 of those they lost. Even if you have 5 turnovers and you don't lose any, very hard still to win that game. But when you lose all 5 against Notre Dame, even top teams in the country wouldn't have won that game,
I agree. And then the other fugly game was Oregon over the Illini. I thought the Illini would show up.
I did too.
38-9. It was unwatchable. They couldn't move the ball.
That's brutal. Yeah, there was no offense from the Fighting Illini. Well, my big fugly game you mentioned before, but Missouri against Bama, man. I mean, just talk about no offense. I mean, literally, the scoreboard reflected it. It was brutal. But Bama, that defense was in lockdown mode, and I've got them. I highlighted them in our next section here around top performances of the week. But they pitched that shutout. But yeah, Missouri's. I think Bama's defense knocked out the Missouri starting quarterback, Drew Pine. I think he left in the game early in the game, and after that they had nothing. But yeah, that game was pretty blank and ugly to watch. So that's a recap on that. How about the individual team performances? Let's start on the defensive side of the ball. What stood out to you, Mark? Any highlights for the defensive side?
So when I had turned on that OSU game and they were playing Nebraska had the ball at the 1, first down at the 1. They didn't put it in. OSU had a 4-down goal line stand. And it was just amazing. They are so big and physical up front. Very, very good. I know that they're rated number 6 in the country right now. Mm-hmm. And then Indiana had a nice defensive game against Washington.
Yeah, absolutely. Good performance. Really good performance, yeah. Well, I'm going to have to give the nod to one of your season favorites. Again, a team you called early, the Panthers. And this is why I love the game, albeit when it comes to the picking record this week, I got obliterated with 2. But Pitt's defense forcing 3 pick sixes against the Big Orange. from Syracuse, and Kyle McCord, 3 pick sixes in the first half, I believe, and he threw a total of 5 interceptions in that game, man. I mean, Pitt's defense was just on fire. So the Pitt defense forced 5 interceptions, and they sacked him 4 times.
This was the Thursday night game?
Yeah. Yeah. But despite that, despite 5 INTs and 4 sacks, McCord still threw for 321 yards, man. But heck of a performance by Pittsburgh. I mean, they manhandled Syracuse, and that defense was just lights out. So hats off to them. And then Bama, like I said, pitching a shutout against Missouri. And that still puts Bama in the hunt, right? Albeit on the outer edges of a playoff spot. Which, by the way, folks, this week, Mark and I are going to reveal our predictions for the first 12 in here in a bit. So that's our big hot topic of the week. So again, if you were going to fast forward to the picks and you listened thus far, I would hold on and check that out. But yeah, Bama at the end of the game, they were still up. It was 34-0. Missouri was on the goal line effectively. I think maybe the 2-yard line. Bama takes out their second string defense and puts the starting defense back in to preserve the shutout. So if they make the playoff, if they win out and they make the playoff, defining moment right there. Like that was a statement that said, look, we are still in this thing and you're not scoring on us today. Not today. It was impressive.
What was the reaction from the Mizzou coach?
I think we can't say it on the show, but holy, you know what? So yeah,
that's adding insult to injury, Andy.
Yeah, they dug in for sure. But just quickly, fun fact, I missed that in the Pitt Syracuse game. Take a wild guess at the time of possession for both teams. Given what I just told you, out of 60 minutes, how many minutes did Syracuse have the ball, and how many minutes did Pitt have the ball when Pitt forced 5 interceptions and sacked Syracuse quarterback Kyle McCord 4 times, and won in convincing fashion? Now it's counterintuitive. Before you answer, it's counterintuitive, but think about the facts I just laid out before you.
Right. So I'm going to say that Syracuse had the majority of the time because Pitt scored so quickly.
Yeah.
And they put up their points. I'm going to say Pitt only had the ball 22 minutes out of the game, and 38 minutes was Syracuse.
Yeah, you're a smart guy, man. That's why you're the co-host. That's why you're leading in the picks too, as we'll see later on. Yeah, Syracuse had the ball 41 minutes out of 60. Pitt only had 19. Yeah, Pitt had 19 and won convincingly. Yeah. Yeah. So defensive performances, offensive players, teams. Who stood out to you this week?
Jaquez Hunter, running back.
Look at you. That was my number 2.
Really?
Yeah.
23 carries, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Average how many yards a carry?
12.5.
Yeah, look at you, man. I thought for sure I was going to pull that one out, and you were going to be like, oh, I haven't heard of that guy.
You are rubbing off on me, Andy. See that?
Man.
And
that was a big game, huge game against Kentucky, too. And the defense of Kentucky that we talked about has been pretty good this year.
Exactly. So shocking that they were able to run all over that defense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was impressive. Very impressive.
And then the second guy I had was Braylon Russell from Arkansas. 16 carries, 175 yards, 10.9 yards per carry. I do not remember who Arkansas played last week. Do you?
Who did they play? Obviously an SEC game.
Maybe it's Mississippi State?
Yeah, Mississippi State. I don't know if it was this past weekend or the weekend before. We'll get those facts to the listeners here. But yeah, I know for a fact in the last 2 weeks they have played Mississippi State. I'm just not certain if that was this past weekend we just came off of or the weekend before.
Okay.
But yeah, really, that's really good. Some good numbers there, man.
So who did you have? Obviously, you've gotten someone I didn't think about.
Yeah. Well, we'll go back to the good that I talked about, Tulsa versus UTSA. Tulsa's down. Yeah, Arkansas did play Mississippi State, won 58-25 this past weekend. Or
Oof.
Mississippi State goes to 1-7 after that loss.
Oh my, that hurts.
Yeah, tough one, tough one. Yeah, Tulsa's quarterback, guy by the name of Cooper. I'm going to go with Lagasse. Hopefully it's not Legas, but Lagasse sounds better, so that's what I'm going with. Record for himself, threw for 333 yards, 5 tutties. So heck of a performance. Led the Golden Wave back when they were down. But UTSA's quarterback Owen McCown. Not sure if he's related to the Cade McCown, which I believe was a Longhorn back in the day. But he threw for 440 and 4 tutties in a losing effort. So both quarterbacks, another 1,000-yard game in college football, and both quarterbacks fared well. And both were 1-3 prior to that going in that game. 1-3 AAC teams putting up 1,000 yards on the board. So, yeah, hats off to Cooper Lagasse for that outstanding offensive performance of the week.
Look at you mining this data and finding this guy. Leave
Gotta
it
love
to
it.
you, Professor.
That's how you learn. That's how you learn about the broader landscape of college football, right? Don't always go to your go-to. So, hey, folks, that's a wrap on week 9. Hot topics of the week for this week. We've been looking forward to it. We talked about it and foreshadowed it last week. We're going to get into Mark and I's prediction of the first 12 in. We're going to talk about what the first reveal, which in our eyes is Super Tuesday for next week. How Mark and I look at next Tuesday is the first official rollout of the 12-team playoff brackets by the committee and the governing body. I also think there's some other event going on next Tuesday, Mark, but but we're focused on the 12. So hey, we're gonna take a quick break here, and we will be right back. All right, folks, we're back. Clearly, the editor of the show needs a little tune-up on his box sizing, so I'll take that back to management. But we can still see the first 12 in. This is a New York City kid. Mark, walk us through it. What have you got? 1 to 12, 12 to 1, and give us a bit of insight in how you came up with your teams that you think are going to be battling for the Natty starting December 20th.
So, I mean, as of today, Andy, and as we're, watching intently every week, Oregon just looks like they're getting better and better and better, right? And I just think right now that they're the best team in the country, and I like them as my number 1.
Okay.
Georgia.
So you got them winning out the remainder of the season. So you have them continuing to win, right, in the regular Big Ten season. You've got them going to the Big Ten championship game and winning the Big Ten championship game.
As well as winning, I guess, 2 rounds of the playoff. Is that correct, or 3?
Yeah. Well, this is how they'll be seeded to start, right? So this is
they'll
how they'll
get the
start.
bye.
So they'll play the winner of those outer bracket games, right? So you're saying that the number 1 team in the country, both performance-wise and ranking, will be Oregon when it's all said and done before the playoffs
they
starts.
will be the national champions.
Okay. All right. Wow, he's revealing his pick already, folks. But all right, talk to us a little bit about your other 3 that are going to be kind of the first 4 in. So these first 4 in teams, they get a first round bye. They won their conference title. They're ranked, in the top 5, and they're from the Power 4 conference. So talk us through the other 3 you got getting the first week off, while the other 8 teams on the outer boxes there are playing.
Right. So the first 4 are going to get the bye, Andy.
Yep.
And they're only going to have to play 2 games to win the national championship.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm thinking Georgia beat Texas. They lost to Alabama. but I think that they're going to. I could see maybe I don't know how the brackets unfold. Are they on both sides
Yeah. Yep.
of the bracket?
Yep.
So
Yep.
Georgia could play Oregon.
Could very much could. Yeah.
You know, you talk about a great game, just like that Oregon Ohio State game with whoever
Yeah.
had the ball at the last one to touch it
Yeah.
wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And I think the next cut down is Miami. We talked about them. They've been a juggernaut all year. I am concerned about their defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to do damage.
You think they're gonna?
Going
You think
to.
they're gonna win the ACC?
I think they are going to win the ACC. The question is, do they play Pitt or do they play Clemson? I know you're a big Clemson guy.
Yeah.
I don't see Clemson as being the Clemson of old.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Right. Ohio State, we talked about it in the beginning of the year in the first show that we thought that this might be Ohio State's year. It still could be. I could be wrong, and it could be a rematch, and it could be Ohio State, Oregon.
Yeah.
And we could have a rematch for national championship, right?
Possibly, but so what you're saying with the bracket here with Ohio State in is they've got to win this weekend at Penn State.
Yeah, and that's the T-shirt game of the week this week.
Okay, well, we probably just gave that away, but
whoa.
unless you pick the other way and people are like, what is he talking about? So you got
I am a big Penn State believer, as you know.
I know. I'm betting on the Nittany Lions being on that T-shirt, but we'll have to wait and see. So you got the Ducks, the Dogs, the Canes, and the Buckeyes as the first four in and getting the first round bye. What talk to us about some of your teams in the outer boxes? Let's talk about kind of the last two in you got there, Notre Dame and Pitt. What drove you there?
Pitt, I've told you, I've watched them.
I know you love them.
The spring ball.
What is it? Narduzzi, isn't that a guy? Isn't that head coach's name?
Narduzzi's going to be coach of the year, maybe.
Wow, big call there. There.
I had him in our poll last week. Remember?
Yeah.
So I like him. I like the defense. I like the freshman quarterback, Eli Holstein. I think that they have a pro-style offense. I do not think they're as good as Miami, but I do believe that they are better than BYU and that they should get that 12th seed. It was between BYU or Pitt, and I took Pitt over BYU.
Okay. All right. Big call.
Notre Dame, they took Navy apart. They've had a decent season. You know, Notre Dame, Andy, they play.
They've got a good stretch coming up, man. They've got a good. It's no cakewalk.
Yeah, but I do think that they squeak in at number 11. Yeah. Penn State, I think they're undefeated now, Andy. So
yes, they're number 3 in the country right now. Number 3.
Right. So I'm telling you that they'll probably lose a game or two this year, but they'll sneak into that playoff because of strength of schedule. Tennessee has been great all year. I think the SEC gets 3 teams in.
Okay.
Boise State has been, you've been touting them all year. They've been great. They're going to win their conference.
Yeah.
Indiana, if anyone in the country has earned this one, even if they don't win the Big Ten and Oregon wins the Big Ten,
yeah,
and Ohio State goes from that conference, I think the Big Ten gets 4 teams in, right?
Yeah, that's what you've got. Yeah. Well, Indiana's going to Columbus here in a couple of weeks, I think mid-November. So they'll get to face the Buckeyes, and there could be an argument made if that's the only game they lose on the season. Then you'll have, assuming Ohio State beats Penn State, could get quite interesting though. If Oregon's beat Ohio State beats Indiana, Penn State beats Ohio State, right? Then you've got this 4-way tie of one-loss teams, and how they determine who plays Oregon in the conference championship, because head-to-head, Oregon will have the advantage over Ohio State, but they obviously all haven't played each other. So that could be quite interesting to see who gets into the Big Ten championship if that plays out. But the Hoosiers, they'll have their opportunity in Columbus. I think maybe like I said, second or third weekend in November. So we'll see.
And then obviously, who wins the Big 12,
Yeah.
right? Is it BYU?
You've
Is
got
it
Iowa State, my friend.
right,
That's who
or
you've
is it
picked.
Iowa State? And I'm thinking Iowa State. I like them early on. They've been playing
Yeah,
very
you
well.
just like Shotgun Steve. That's all. You
Well, I
don't
was
have to
about to
take
say
grid for.
I want to pay homage to Shotgun Steve. And as much as I've been touting Kansas State, they're
Yeah,
not
I'm surprised.
right. I was going to pick them. They're not as complete as Iowa State.
Wow. Okay. Change your tune on them. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So that's how I see this thing playing out. Couple of surprises: Iowa State, Pitt. Um, Other than that, I don't think that there's a lot of surprises here. Notre Dame, I was on the fence
Yeah.
about. Um, let's see what you have there, Sensei.
Yeah. Well, we've got there's a lot to play out. This was I don't know if anybody else has done this, but there's a lot of brackets that are out there now, and that get posted, but they're based right now on rankings 1 to 12. Like they're just taking, the polls and listing them out and then seeding them in, similar type of brackets based on how they're currently ranked. But folks, this is our prediction of what the first and final 12 will be to start the playoff. So it's a bit of a chess game because you got a bunch of games and a bunch of things that still have to happen. And a couple of these teams already have one losses, right? And so how many two-loss team gets in? Does any three-loss team get in here? How many from the Big Ten? How many from the SEC? So a lot to play out. So Mark and I played a bit of college football chess, and this is Mark's look at who the final 12 are going to be. Some similarities, some differences for who I picked, which will be coming up here in a second. So hang tight, folks, and we'll come back with the look at the next 12 that is coming from yours truly. Hang with us. There we have it, folks. We're back. There's the Sensei's final 12. You can see a couple similarities there, Mark, but a few differences overall, right? So the first four in my view, you and I are in agreement on 1 and 2. I think Oregon and Georgia. I think both make it there. I think Oregon wins out. I don't think they're going to get beaten. I think even in a rematch with Ohio State, I think they found the right mix, and Lanning's they found their momentum. Right, these first 2 weeks, we even commented about. I think actually the Ducks may have made either a debut in the bad or maybe even the ugly spot in those first 2 weeks because they didn't have their mojo, but they found it, and I don't think anybody's standing in their way. So I do think Oregon comes in at the number 1 seed. And I think Georgia does too. I think Georgia wins out. I think that performance against Texas, that defense, I think they found something there, and I think they will hang with that, and the offense will do enough to keep them in the games and keep winning. But Oregon and Georgia are 1 and 2. Now, where we differ, I got Clemson. Then I think Clemson is going to win the ACC. I think I'm not sure Miami has enough to beat Clemson. I think Clemson is just. I think Dabo's going to have that crew ready, and I think they're going to win. They'll be, I think, better geared up to win in all 3 phases. And I think Miami's had too many close calls that a loss will find them. And I think that loss could come in the ACC championship game, right? They don't play each other in the regular season, but so I think Miami is they're still in there for me, right? I got them kind of just on the outside at number 5, but I think Clemson's going to. I think they're gonna take it there, and then I got BYU, man. I think by BYU, I think they're going to continue their streak, and I think they're going to win the Big 12. Sorry, Shotgun Steve. I know you can curse at me and prove me wrong. I've still given love to your Cyclones. They're still in the mix. They're just not getting a rest in week 1. But I think they've got a little magic going on out there, and they were an underdog going to UCF this past weekend, and they tore UCF apart. So I think they've got it. So Reactions, thoughts, Mark, on my first four in. What do you think?
I can't believe that you're picking BYU and Clemson to be in the semifinal game.
No, not the game. This is the first. They're the first four in, right? So everybody still has to play to get to the national title, right? These are the first four. So that means is at the end of the season, these will be the four highest ranked teams who are conference champions. And so they are getting a rest in week one. All those other 8 teams have to play in week one. And the winners of those 8 teams, so those 4 games, they have to then, the first game for BYU, they'll have to play, in my case, the winner of the Miami IU game. So BYU could get knocked out by one of those 2 teams, and then, one of those 2 teams moves into the quarters, right? But this is just saying the first 4 teams are in. Doesn't mean they're going to play. These are the final 4. This is what the first 12. These are the 12 teams that are going to go after it to win the national title. And the 4 highest ranked to me are going to be Oregon, Georgia, Clemson, and BYU.
I'm with you on Oregon and Georgia. Clemson, I don't even have Clemson and BYU making it, Andy.
I know. I think that was a shocker for me. I'm shocked at BYU, less so Clemson, but I was surprised you didn't have BYU in the mix somewhere. But
BYU was between BYU and Pitt for me.
Yeah.
I tell you, when I look at your overall mix, you have a lot of SEC, but you also have 2 Big 12 teams in there.
Yes,
I only had one.
Yeah. So I've got from the SEC, and I teetered back and forth on Texas and Texas A&M because that's the final game of the year for those 2 teams, and it's at Kyle Field. It's at College State. It's being played at the home of A&M. Yeah, College Station there. And just after the performance against Georgia, and Ewers he's not been the same quarterback post injury.
Yeah.
Like I read a statistic this past weekend that I think his average passing yards per pass are something like downfield or like 5.9 yards. Like he has not thrown the ball long and opening up the field. So I think A&M is going to win that game potentially. But even if they don't, A&M's undefeated right now in the SEC. That's the only really big game they have left. If they lose to Texas, Texas beats them. Georgia's beaten Texas. So again, who plays in the SEC championship? But I think either way, A&M beats. If A&M beats Texas, then A&M definitely is getting in, right? Even if they end up losing to Georgia in the SEC championship game. But LSU is still technically potentially in the hunt, albeit they've got 2 losses, but they only have 1 SEC loss. But yeah, I really went back and forth kind of on A&M and Texas, and at the end of the day, I put them both in just because I think the power of that conference. It wouldn't be outlandish to have 3 SEC teams in here, right? So that's right. I've got.
You didn't have Tennessee.
Yeah, I did not have. I left them out, man. I don't think they still. They still have to play Georgia, I believe, and I don't see them winning that game. And I think a 2-loss Tennessee. I don't think they'll get in above. If these 3 battle it out, right? And I think Texas will get the nod over Tennessee if you had to pick between 2-loss teams, or even LSU if they're in the mix with 2-loss SEC teams. So anyhow, kind of working through. On the kind of the upper left, I'm not sure what they're going to call these brackets or these divisions or regions, but I've got Texas playing Boise State in the 8-9 game. That the winner of that game would play Oregon in their second round matchup, first game for Oregon. I like Boise State. I'm with you. I think they win. I think they win their conference out west. Genty continues to build his momentum and his case for being the Heisman. And I saw again a statistic today that the last 3 Heisman running backs, Henry, Ingram, Bush, at this stage through 9 weeks of play, Genty, I believe he's well over, I think he's almost at 1,300 yards. And every one of those three that won the Heisman, I think only one of them was had broken 900 yards. So Genty is like 300 to 400 yards better, and multiple TDs better than any of those guys, right? So I think his case just gets stronger, and I think that lifts and propels Boise State in. Then working over to Georgia, the number 2, I've got them playing the winner of Penn State A&M. You'll also notice I don't have Ohio State in here.
I'm in disbelief. We had Texas and Ohio State as our 2 championship teams in the preseason.
I know, yeah.
And look at you now.
I know. So the big question for this weekend's matchup is Drew Aller going to play? He left the game. I don't know if you watched it. It was the game Saturday night. That's the game I was flipping back and forth on, Penn State, Wisconsin, and LSU A&M. Aller went out just before the half with an apparent knee injury. Couldn't go. And I want to say it was his left knee, which as a right-handed quarterback is where you're putting all your pressure on. And if he couldn't go, that would concern me, right? Hopefully it's nothing severe. But if he does not play this weekend, I probably will lean to the Buckeyes, and the Buckeyes beat Penn State, then I think I'd probably swap out Penn State for Ohio State. But I tried to read the latest reports, and indications are that they're going to obviously do everything they can to have him play. But there's been no MRI, no diagnosis of any torn ligament. So if he's got a fighting shot to play, they'll get him ready to play by any means necessary, medically and or pharmaceutically otherwise, I think. But I like their chances against Ohio State at home. And, we'll talk about that pick later on. But that's how I've got them in. And then Clemson, I got them playing the winner, Notre Dame. Iowa State, I think Iowa State's had an excellent, outstanding season. I'm not sure they'll win the Big 12, but I still think they've done enough, even if they lose the Big 12 title, to BYU to get in. And Notre Dame, I think, Notre Dame, I even think with 2 losses, Notre Dame can still squeak their way in. I don't think they're going to lose. They've got 4 games left. They've got 3 really, I think, games they could lose. One of them you'll think I'm out of my mind, but they've got to play Army. Army's at home. I think Army's going to, had Navy not turned the ball over 5 times, a much different ball game. I think Navy would have given them a run for their money and could have been right in it. Army certainly is going to watch the tape of that. And if Army doesn't make any mistakes at all, Army could beat them at home. They have to play at SC, the last game of the year in the Coliseum. USC is not playing for anything other than pride, and potentially to ruin the chances of Notre Dame going to the playoff. They could lose that game. And then the third one, which you're going to think I'm nuts. Notre Dame has to play Florida State. And I know you think that's crazy.
Indeed, we said we will never mention Florida State on this show again.
We didn't say mention. We just wouldn't have them probably in the picks. But I would not be surprised if Florida State beat Notre Dame. But those are 3 games they can't take lightly. But I think they win out. I think they get in. They play Iowa State. And then lastly, IU, I think, gets in because of what we talked about. I think even with losing to Ohio State, they have a chance to get in that 12 spot. And they would play Miami in the 5 spot, who then the winner of that would play BYU. So that's where we're at, folks.
Andy, this is a nice bracket. Those games that you're sizing up, like the Miami Indiana game.
Yeah,
that's a game to sit down and watch from start to finish.
Notre Dame, Iowa State, A&M, Penn State, Boise State, Texas.
So this whole playoff is going to be must-see TV, Andy.
That's what it's supposed to be, right? I think that's what it's supposed to be. But hey, folks, that's the 12 from Mark and I. You can rewind the tape. You can send us your comments, your disagreements, your agreements. But that's where we're at. We are going to come back once the regular season's over and once the official brackets come out. We'll look at next week's in next week's show. I don't know if we'll have the CFP's first showing of their 12 next week. If not, the following show we'll look at who they've picked, who they've got in there, and we'll compare them to what we have. Remind you that the committee they'll be showing the 12 at the given week. So they will not be predicting or showing us the outcome, which Mark and I have kind of shown you who we think at the end of it all is going to be in the big dance for college football. But we'll see who's in the top 12 starting next week, and week by week we'll probably we'll give a look and give a few comments on what that's changing and transpiring to look like over the subsequent weeks there. But that's where we stand now. So now we're going to our final transition here. We're going to move into the picks of the week for week 10. And we have a change in leadership, folks. The New York City Kid is overtaking the Sensei and has a couple game lead on me. So we'll be right back to the picks. Hold tight. All right, there we are, folks. We're back. What a week for the New York City Kid, my friend. 15-2. Top-notch performance, man. That's Heisman worthy.
Andy, the student has become the teacher.
You have. I think the last 3 weeks, I think you've outdone me. Well done, my friend. Very
Well,
good.
let's just say this, man. The season's not over yet. Let's not count our chickens.
All right, it's close. 2-game lead. You got me 97-95, and on the win side, and I'm 2 down on the loss side. But how about it, man? We've picked almost 150 games.
That's crazy.
I know. It is. And this isn't like willy-nilly, right? We're not just getting on here for 15 minutes and slapping up some games and flipping a coin. You know, we're watching the games. We don't watch all these, but we're watching many, and we're paying attention to all of them. And we love it, folks. That's what we do, and it's why we're here every week, and why you should continue to tune in and share the love of the Saturday Sensei on all your favorite podcast channels. All right. Week 10, let's start it out. We're going to start it off with a big service matchup in the Commander's Trophy race, which is always fought between Navy, Air Force, and Army. But Army taking on Air Force. Who do you got here, Mark?
I think the cadets, the Black Knights, keep marching down. So I like Army.
You got the Black Knights, eh? Well, we're going to agree with you on that one. I'm not sure why this is. There we go. Loading up. I've also had the Black Knights. I think they are. I think they're going to handle Air Force pretty easily, and I think they end up victorious. So we got Army. Next up, Oregon heading into the Big House again. Preseason, everybody circled this game on their calendar. Thought it would be a huge battle. Maybe a little less important now, but nonetheless a big game for the Ducks to maintain their march towards that number 1 seed.
I think the Ducks punish them in the Big House.
Yeah, I think so too. Could be ugly. I think it could be like Texas rolling into town early in the season for Michigan. Next, Hoosiers heading into Sparty. This could be an interesting game. Michigan State not too impressive on the road against Michigan last week, and frankly, just not all that impressive this season. But at home, probably a bit of a stronger team when they're playing at home. Got the Hoosiers rolling in. Signetti and the boys trying to keep the dream alive. What do you think here?
I think Indiana's for real. I saw the game last week, even with the backup quarterback. I like them. I think they continue to roll.
Go Hoosiers. Yeah, I think this game, I think it could be interesting. I do. Michigan State's 4-4, but I think Indiana's just they've got too much horsepower, and I believe my understanding is Rorick, starting QB for IU, was out last week. Suffered a thumb injury the week prior, has had surgery, but they are targeting his return for the Michigan State game. Still not confirmed, But clearly the backup can handle the offense if he's not. So I'm still I'm with you, man. Go Hoosiers in this one. Next game up, Trojans heading up north on the West Coast, taking on the Huskies, who are home in Seattle, licking their wounds after the Hoosiers tore them up in at the Rock. But what do you got here, Trojans at the Huskies?
This is a tough game, Andy.
Yeah.
This is a tough game. I know Washington didn't look good last week. They're at home, but something tells me SC is going to win this week. So I'm calling the Trojans.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going Trojans. I both 4-4 teams. Still playing to become bowl eligible, albeit may not be a super sexy bowl, but I think USC took it out on Rutgers here this past weekend. Obviously, that was a home game. This is an away game, but I think Trojans get the win over the Skis. Next game up, classic Big Ten matchup. Two behemoths battling and pounding each other out in the trenches, but Badgers taking on the Hawkeyes at Kinnick.
Andy, this is going to be a drag 'em out game, boy. Two slam bam type of teams, and Whiskey's been playing really well.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Northwestern last week. They put up about 48 points.
Yes, they did. Yeah, offense looks good this year compared to years past.
I think Iowa's got enough in the tank, and they beat them.
Yeah, I'm going Hawkeyes too. I think it should be a good game. I think Wisconsin has found their offense, although Penn State's defense is pretty solid too. We haven't talked a lot about their defensive side of the ball, but that was a slugfest in Cap Randall last weekend. But I think the Hawkeyes has found an offense, can score touchdowns this year, not rely on field goals, and I think they get it done at home against the Badgers. So going Hawkeyes. Next one, interesting matchup here, Mark. Florida Gators taking on Georgia in Tallahassee, neutral site.
This is the cocktail party.
Yes.
It's late in this. Is it early or late in the season? I don't remember.
I think it's later. I think it's usually earlier. I think it's usually earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I'm shocked this guy still has his job. They've had a horrible season. How many? What are they? 3-4?
Yeah, I mean, you say that is a horrible season, my friend. But one game below 500. We'll check the facts here on where Florida sits record-wise, but I would say Napier has a better chance of keeping his job than Mike Norvell at Florida State, and that would not
forget him. He should have been out weeks ago.
Easy, my friend. But yeah, this is the cocktail party. Dogs, Florida. I think we revealed our top 12 just a few minutes ago, so I think we probably know who you're going to pick. But
yeah, I got Georgia.
Bulldogs. Yeah, dogs are just too much. No, Florida is 4-3, dude. They have a winning record.
Yeah.
So not so fast on firing our friend Napier. Although we did say, again, we can rewind the tapes. You all can go back and listen to week 0. We had him in the hot seat, right? And rightly so. But we also said toughest schedule of any team in college football this season.
Yes.
And if he even if he didn't make the playoff, if he finished a couple games above 500, we felt he'd keep his job for another year.
Correct. And, that's exactly what we said.
Yeah. So I'm going dogs too. I think Georgia wins this game, as I think everybody will. But could be interesting. It could be a very interesting. They've got what's his name? Langham. What's quarterback's name down at Florida? Mertz is out. Langham. Yeah. So Langham's in. They like him.
DJ Langham.
Athletic, can run the ball. Still young, working on the passing game. But who knows, man? He could throw a bit of wrench in the works. But I think dogs are going to be too much. So next, another SEC matchup. Mississippi heading into Little Rock, my friend. Another interesting matchup here.
Arkansas is playing good ball. They have that great running back who we talked about, had a great game last week. Ole Miss is going to win. They're the more talented team. Lane Kiffin's going to have them ready to play. They won't have a letdown. Ole Miss.
You got Ole Miss, huh?
Yeah.
Give me the Hogs.
All right,
Give
baby.
me the Razorbacks. I like the Razorbacks at home. I think they're going to get it done against Kiffin and the boys coming into town. I think they're going to have enough juice in the tank and in the ball that Arkansas wins this one at home. Bit of an upset. Ole Miss 6-2. Arkansas is 5-3. So not as though they're a terrible team, but Wildcats, Kentucky, heading into Knoxville, take on the Vols, man. Kentucky at Tennessee. What do you think here?
This is going to be a good game. Kentucky's had a good season. I just think Tennessee's got too good a defense, too good an offense, too talented. I think that they're going to make the playoff. I like Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm with you. Go Vols at home. Whew, next one. This should be another really interesting game. I think rewind the tapes to LSU escaping by the hair of their chinny chin chin when they played the Gamecocks there. And matter of fact, again, another interesting stat. I don't know why my brain retains these things, but it does. LSU did not lead at any point in that game until they won the game in overtime. Gamecocks led that entire game up until the point LSU said not so fast. A&M at South Carolina. I'm going Aggies in this one. I've become a believer. Elko hopefully doesn't let me down. I got on the bandwagon of Neon Dion there, and they won a game for me, and then they lost one. But I'm going A&M on the road, obviously, to keep their playoff hopes alive and keep my bracket intact. I think they get it done, but I do think it's going to be a real dogfight.
South Carolina beat Alabama. They beat LSU. They barely lost the game the other game I was watching.
Oh, South Carolina lost to LSU. LSU won that game.
Oh, that's right. That's the one that
I just told you about that. I just told you
about that.
Yeah,
that's right.
You love your South Carolina though, man.
I do, Andy. This is a toss up.
I know this is like right at your heartstrings, man. This is like you got to pick one, but I'm not sure. A lot of the games I've got my sheet that I put in your picks, and sometimes I'll pre-populate because I'm like, oh yeah, he's definitely picking this game. This one, I don't know, man. I don't even know you that well.
Upset alert. I'm going with the Gamecocks, baby.
Oh, he's going USC, the other USC. Gamecocks at home. I can't say that's a bad pick. That won't surprise me if that happens. I'm still sticking with my Aggies in this one, but I like the pick. I respect the pick.
Thank you.
Next one, ACC. I think this could be a good matchup. Again, Miami has escaped several close games this year, 3 to be exact. And Dukies are not a team to take lightly. So Duke heading to Coral Gables to take on the Canes. Who do you like in this one, Mark?
Duke's had a good year. They got the defensive coordinator from Penn State. I forgot his name already. It's late.
Yeah.
But they've had a good year. They played well last week. But Miami's just got too much firepower. They're not going to be able to stop Miami. Miami's at home. Miami wins.
Yeah. Canes. I got Canes at home too. It could give them a little trouble, but I think they win. So next one, another again ACC matchup. Louisville heading to the other Death Valley, as Mark would say, not the real Death Valley down in Baton Rouge, but Louisville Cardinal taking on the Tigers from Clemson.
This is going to be a back and forth, Andy. This is going to be a great game. It's going to be a barn burner. Yeah. If it's played in Louisville, I would take Louisville. Yeah, but no chance. I think Clemson's going to beat them, though. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Tigers.
The Tigers. Yeah, Clemson wins at home in this one.
Yeah.
Next one. This is a sneaky good matchup, my friend. Pitt heading to SMU.
SMU's having a good season. SMU played, but
they're having a great season. They're not having a good season. They're having a great season.
8-2. What are they? 6-2.
Having a great season. They're a one-loss team, man. I think they're 7-1.
7-1. And Pitt's
taking on your Pitt Panthers.
And Pitt's on the road.
Exactly.
Right. So if I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, that this team is playoff worthy,
That's
and
right.
if the defense is as good as what we think it is, and this kid Eli Holston is ready for prime time, then I got to go with the Pitt Panthers.
Yeah, well, you've been on the Narduzzi train the entire year, so I predicted you would pick that, and you did not disappoint. But I'm going to disappoint you, and they were not in my 12. Stangs at home take down Pitt and give them their first loss. SMU wins this game, in my view.
Okay.
So SMU's had played good ball the last 2 years, and I think at home, I think they're going to be a little too much for Pitt. So I think Pitt gets taken off the undefeated board in this game. Next one, another interesting and exciting matchup in the Big 12. Red Raiders heading to Ames, Iowa, taking on the Cyclones.
It's a great game, Andy.
Yeah, it is. I think Iowa State wins this game, but I think Texas Tech threatens a shut or an upset throughout most of this game. So I think Iowa State pulls it off, but Texas Tech is one of those teams, man. You know, they lost last week to TCU, like we said. I think it's 45-44, but they put points on the board. And they did get got their rear ends handed to them by Oregon early in the season on the road at Autzen. All the other teams that have gone into Autzen have lost as well, too. But Iowa State gets it done, but I think very, very close matchup here.
Just give me 1 second, Andy, because I'm about to lose all the juice in this computer and to shut down.
Yeah, don't do that, my friend. We haven't even gotten to the T-shirt pick of the week. There are technical difficulties in NYC. What is Mayor Adams shutting off internet accessibility or something?
It's the migrant crisis, Andy.
Oh, man. Look out, folks. All right. I'd gone with Cyclones. You hadn't picked. What do you think? Iowa State, Texas Tech.
I got to keep my allegiance to Shotgun Steve, my friend. Iowa State, I do have them in the playoff. I think that they're going to win the Big 12. So Iowa State beats the Red Raiders.
Nice. All right, folks, this is why you tune in every week, other than the T-shirt pick of the week. But the Saturday Sensei always brings you a unique game, a game that probably nobody who's listening and most experts aren't even going to realize is being played. But our next matchup, folks, is a barn burner. We've got Campbell University taking on Elon. And no, that is not Mr. Musk. That is Elon University.
So, Andy, I don't even think our listeners know where Campbell or Elon is, let alone what conference they play for. You know, Campbell is a very little known school in North Carolina.
That's right.
They've had a hell of a season.
Buell's Creek.
They've had a hell of a season, Andy. They finally won their first game last week.
Guess what their mascot is?
I have no idea.
And this is why I had to pick it, man. The Campbell Fighting Camels. Their mascot is Gaylord the Camel. Like, how can you not love it? How can you not love it, man?
Right.
Campbell University, the Fighting Camel, are taking on Elon University, and Elon is the Phoenix. So we've got the Camels versus the Phoenix.
And where is Elon? Are they in Arizona?
Where is Elon located? They are located in. Now I did not do this on purpose, folks. And we look at all the games, we look at the lineup, and then I typically will look conference by conference and FBS and FCS. So I pulled up all the FCS and looked at the slate, clicked on a few teams. And when I got to the Fighting Camel, I could look no further. Elon is also in North Carolina, my friend. Two North Carolina teams battling it out. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So what do you think, my friend? Who's winning this game?
I'm gonna go with Elon. Who is their mascot?
The Phoenix.
The Phoenix. So I'm gonna go. The Phoenix rises, my friend.
a phoenix rises. An hour and 40 minutes separates these two powerhouses in the FCS. I can't not pick the Fighting Camel. Like I can't do it. You got to go with the Fighting Camel. So we've got a bit of a head to head. We'll see who wins out here. I think I won the last odd pick where we were at odds, Brown versus URI. But
That's
we'll
right.
see.
That's right. I had the Brownies, and they
That's
lost
right. You had the
at
Bears.
Rhode Island.
That's right. That's right. So, anyways, all right. Second to last game here, West Coast, San Diego State traveling into Boise to take on the Bronco. What do you think here, Mark?
I think Boise train continues to roll, baby.
Yeah,
I like the
Boise,
Broncos.
Boise wins at home for sure, and Genty keeps that Heisman dream alive. All right, folks. This brings us to last pick of week 10 of Saturday Sensei here, coming to you at all your favorite podcast channels. We love all you that are tuning in, have stuck with us, passing us along to your friends, family, and college football loved ones. Huge matchup, man. And again, conference realignment, playoff has just, I think, changed the topography and has changed the face of college football here. And this season, another top 5 matchup in first weekend in November. When's the last time we had this? And this is multiple weekends, right? Every weekend we've got a top matchup. But only disappointment about this game, noon kickoff. Why this game is not being played at 7:00 at night in a whiteout is beyond me.
Yeah.
But I guess the networks and the dollars tied to a noon game are more valuable than a whiteout at Happy Valley against Ohio State. But Ohio State heading into Penn State. This is a tough one, my friend. This is a tough call. Boy, I didn't have Ohio State on in my final 12. This is a really tough pick. I'm going to have to go, and in my sheet, I'm not going to show you all the spreadsheet where we track. I put the games together. Mark puts the games together, and then I put them in the spreadsheet so we can track the wins and losses. And then I usually make my picks immediately after I put them in there, and largely based on kind of gut. I have OSU in here winning this game, but I think Penn State and Franklin are finally going to get the monkey off their back, and I think Penn State's going to win this game in Happy Valley. I'm going Nittany Lions.
Are you changing your pick right now in that spreadsheet?
I am. I'm typing it in right now. Changing the O to a P to PSU. Penn State wins at home.
I've been a Penn State fan my
entire
life.
You love them.
I love them. I love the history. I love State College. I've been to a whiteout, and it's in my blood. But Drew Allers may not be playing. OSU, I think, has a good shot at that national championship. And I got to tell you, my friend, Brutus Buckeye wins the day.
He's going with the Bucks, sticking his real love in Pennsylvania is the University of Pittsburgh. Obviously, Penn State fans, don't forget that. Good pick. This is a tough one, so it's a toss-up, right? But I sure hope Aller is healthy because he wants to play in this game, and I think the fans and everybody wants to see best on best, and best men win this game. So we'll see how we shake out about midway through, probably around 4:00 Saturday afternoon. We'll see who's victorious. But that's it, folks. That's a wrap on week 10. Appreciate you tuning in. Great show this week. We loved it. A lot of good games from week 9. Gave you our first look at who we think the first 12 in come December is going to be. We'll see what the committee officially says in terms of who the first 12 are right now, probably in the next week or two. And then when we get down to it, we'll compare the final 12 from the committee to the 12 that we just showed you, see how we fared with our chess game for the balance of the season. And then we'll go through and we'll pick the final 4, and then we'll pick the winner once we get into December. So lots of exciting stuff to stay tuned in for. But again, appreciate all of you, the love and support, sharing the passion with Mark and I. And that's a wrap on week 10. Thank you.